This meeting will come to order. Would Commissioner Watkins?
Invocation.
You do roll call first? Okay, we'll do the roll call and then you can do the invocation. City Clerk.
Commissioner McElroy?
Present.
Commissioner Watkins?
Present.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Harless? Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Present. Commissioner Watkins, would you do our invocation?
Okay. Shall we all bow and pray?
Just all stand, please.
Father God, as we come to you in prayer, Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to petition your throne. We thank you for this great country that we live in, the greatest democracy ever, and we thank you for all the good people here in the Paducah area who have come to participate in the governance of our city. We just thank you that people are involved and interested, and we thank you for this community and the blessings that you've bestowed upon us and our families and our friends, and we just love you and thank you for your son and thank you for all the good blessings that we have on our families and opportunities that we have in life, and we just pray that we would love each other as you commanded us to, and we ask forgiveness for where we fail you, and we give thanks for all things in Christ Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. In turn for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm sorry.
Amy Hinchell was supposed to vote.
That changes.
That changes. Is that not on your agenda? I'm sorry.
Annie. Where's Annie? Where's Annie? Is that Annie Hensel? Mm-hmm. Ms. Hensel? Is Annie Hensel here?
Yes, she's standing right over there with Judge Hinchell.
She is. I so apologize, young lady.
Did we do it again?
Yes, we can. Come on.
Absolutely.
Come on up. We can do it again.
Absolutely.
You can lead us this time.
I think she was relieved. She was a little nervous.
Well, did we knock the edge off? Can you do it now? Is that okay? Hey, you know what? Feel free to come back anytime. All right? Okay. I just want to make sure if anyone has not signed up, if you want to speak, if you haven't had an opportunity to do that, I think these are out in the hallway.
Along the wall, right?
Along the wall. So make sure you fill one of these out and put it in the tray so that when we get to said item, you will have an opportunity to speak. Okay? All right. All right. Roll call. Any additions or deletions, sir?
No, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, we have swearing in of police officers. Always a good thing. So we will commence with that. Logan Bauer, Pedro Laredo, Jeremy Teague will be sworn in by Judge Deanna Wise Hensel.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, it's my honor tonight to bring to you these three individuals to be sworn in as Paducah police officers. Introduce to you Logan Barrow. Logan is a UK graduate. He was also a member of, I'm going to give a little tidbit about each one of them.
Okay.
He was on the University of Kentucky cheerleading squad for 3 years. Then we have Pedro Laredo. He's a product of McCracken County High School as well as WKCTC, and he is fluent in Spanish. And then we have Jeremy Teague. Jeremy is a Paducah Tillman High School graduate, a West Kentucky Community Technical graduate, as well as a Murray State grad. He's a homegrown Paducah boy. and he did a college internship at Disney World.
He's smart. This is not Disney. We only wish.
So if we would have Judge Henschel come up for the swearing in.
All right, gentlemen, if you would please raise your right hands. I'm going to state the oath and then ask you if you do swear. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, so long as I continue a citizen thereof. And that I will endeavor, to the best of my ability, to detect and prosecute all gamblers and others violating the laws against gaming, and that I will faithfully execute, to the best of my ability, the office of police officer for the Paducah Police Department according to law. And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office. And I do further solemnly swear and or affirm that since the adoption of the present Constitution, I, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state, nor out of it. Nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons. Nor have I acted as second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help me God. If you accept this oath, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you, gentlemen. Look forward to working with you.
Hey, we want to greet you.
Thank you.
There you go, big guy.
There's one of my
Congratulations.
former students. Congratulations.
What year did you graduate? Congratulations.
2005.
McElroy. Scott McElroy. Thank you.
Okay, we have a presentation here for retired Police Chief Brandon Barnhill. If you would come up to the podium.
Can I take the oath again?
New recruit, Barnhill.
Duke of Paducah, we give this award to individuals who have truly made a difference in our community. Not only professionally, personally, had an influence on young and old alike. You had the task of leading a group of officers that in my book is second to none. The legacy that you set here, you left the department in much better hands than you found it, and that's what we like to do around here. So on behalf of the City of Paducah and its citizens, we would like to honor you with this Duke of Paducah Award. Catholic School Week. It's a good thing. There you go. Okay, so we have a proclamation for our Catholic school here in Paducah. I will read the whereases, and hopefully I won't miss any words here. Office of the Mayor, Paducah, Kentucky, proclamation. Whereas St. Mary's school system has since 1858 continuously provided the highest caliber of academic and moral development to those students which they serve for the mutual benefit of every citizen. And whereas Paducah Catholic educators have throughout our city's history dedicated and used their talents toward the development of a responsible and spiritually motivated citizenship in preparation for their responsibilities as residents of this city and as members of society. And whereas those students who have been educated in the St. Mary school system have addressed themselves to the pressing social and moral issues of our day that invoke the fullness measure of the spiritual wealth of our country. And whereas with the theme Catholic Schools Learn, Serve, Lead, Succeed, Catholic schools across the nation are celebrating National Catholic School Week from January 27th to February 2nd, 2019. Now, therefore, I, it says Brandy Harless, but I'm going to say Mayor Pro Tem Richard Abraham, of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim next week as Catholic School Week in the City of Paducah, and I recommend this observance to all our citizens. If you please come forward. And if you would like to say anything, you can.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
If you always say that, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you very much for all you do.
There you go.
And while we're shaking hands, I will take a moment because we gave me the opportunity. I'm Eleanor Spry, Director of St. Mary's School System, and it's been my privilege to be at St. Mary for now my 6th year. God called me out of retirement after 3 weeks to come to St. Mary, and I had a wonderful 34-year experience in the public schools, and God called me to St. Mary, and it's been excellent. And for me, it's been a growth experience, and it's been a life-changing experience as well. I'm thrilled that we have the opportunity for school choice in Paducah, McCracken County, and I'm thankful that we can offer that choice to anyone who comes, anyone who lives here, anyone who comes to visit, because everyone needs to have the ability to choose where they want to receive their education. And so thank you for allowing St. Mary to enter into our 161st year here in Paducah. It was the first school, actually, in Paducah, started by the nuns when they came. So we're thankful that you are there. You're welcome to come by anytime. We're available to anyone, not just Catholic students, because we want you to know that where God leads you, that's where you need to go. So thank you again to each and every one of you. Please visit us. And thank you, Reed and Miranda and Hunter.
Okay. Presentation of, who is this, David Hampton. Okay, we have our comprehensive annual financial report for the year ending June 30th, 2018. David Hampton, CPA, Kemper Group.
Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners and City Manager Arndt. Tonight we have with us David Hampton, CPA with the Kemper CPA Group. He's one of our financial auditors, the lead partner. Are you a partner?
Yes, sir.
He's a partner, okay. His firm performed our most recent financial statement audit, which was for the fiscal year of 2018, and he is here to answer any audit-related questions that you may have. David.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. As John introduced me, I'm David Hampton. I am a partner with Kemper CPA Group, and we perform the audit of your financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2018. Before I begin, I would like to thank you all for having us as your all's auditors, as well as John and all his staff, as well as the department heads. They field a lot of our questions and inquiries, and they go out of their way to work with us to make this as smooth a process as possible, and we certainly appreciate that. So if you would, if you'll turn to your audit reports, hopefully you have all those. On page 11 is our actual independent auditor's report. Now you all have a comprehensive annual financial report, so it has a little bit more information than just basic financial statements. You have an introductory section a financial section that includes our audit report, your management discussion and analysis, your basic financial statements and notes, and required and other supplemental information and schedules. In addition, you include a statistical section, and if you receive federal dollars and are required to, you also have a single audit section. So on page 11 is our independent auditor's report. In the second and third paragraph, we discussed the responsibility of the city and our responsibility as your auditors. As noted, the financial statements as presented are the responsibility of the city, and we are responsible for expressing an opinion on these statements. Paragraph 6 discloses our opinion, and as noted, we've determined these financial statements are fairly presented in all material respect. This is known as an unmodified or clean opinion. In addition, as noted on the next page, we did apply limited procedures on the management discussion analysis and the pension and other post-employee benefit supplemental information on pages 13 through 28 and 102 through 109. Because we just performed limited procedures and did not audit it, we do not express an opinion on this information. As noted in the 9th paragraph, we did apply auditing procedures on other supplementary information accompanying this financial statements on pages 110 through 129 and the schedule of federal expenditures on pages 150 and 151, and have determined these statements and schedules are fairly presented in all material respect. And also, as noted on paragraph 10, we did not audit the introductory or statistical sections, and accordingly, we do not express an opinion on that information. And that concludes our independent auditor's report. You are subject to a couple of additional reports back on pages 152 and 153. Near the back of your CAFR report is our required report under governmental auditing standards. This report discloses our findings, if any, with regard to the city's internal control over financial reporting and compliance with certain laws, regulations, and contracts and grant agreements. As noted in the second paragraph, our responsibility is to consider your all's internal control over financial reporting and compliance, but not to express an opinion on the city's internal controls. Accordingly, for the purpose of this report, we are not expressing an opinion on the city's internal controls. With that in mind, as noted in the 4th paragraph, we did not identify any deficiencies as material weaknesses, which were required to report under GAS. However, we did identify one significant deficiency, reference 2018-001, as reported in the accompanying schedule of findings and questions costs on page 156. In addition, as noted in the next paragraph, as part of obtaining a reasonable assurance whether the city's financial statements are free of material misstatements, we perform tests of compliance with certain laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements. As noted, we did note one instance of noncompliance or other matter that is required to be reported under governmental auditing standards, reference 2018-002, as reported in the accompanying schedule of findings and question costs on page 157. Both of these findings reflect the city's Section 8 housing voucher program was primarily administered by one city employee during pretty much the second half of the year. Even though there was involvement from other city management, primarily it was governed by one individual, and accordingly errors may have occurred or not been detected in a timely manner. Again, we found this to be a significant deficiency and not a material weakness. Management has included their response on 157 along with their corrections. Our last report is on page 154 through 155, as required on the U.S. Office of Management Uniform Guidance Compliance Subjects. This report discloses any noncompliance, if any, in regard to the city's compliance that could have a direct or material effect over the provisions of major programs and grant agreements. These are your federal awards. As noted in the second paragraph, compliance with requirements of laws, regulations, contracts, and grants applicable to federal programs is management's responsibility. Our responsibility is to consider the city's compliance for the purpose of planning and performing our audit, and to obtain reasonable assurance the city complied with the types of compliance that could have a direct and material effect on your major federal programs. As noted in paragraph 5, we've determined the city has complied in all material respect with the type of compliance that could have a direct or material effect on each of its major federal programs. In addition, as noted in paragraph 6, the city is responsible for effective internal controls over compliance. As noted in the second paragraph on the next page, we noted one instance of non-compliance or other matter required to be reported under uniform guidance, reference 2018-002. Management has included their response on page 157. And that concludes our report on your all's CAFR. Would there be any questions?
You guys have any questions? No? Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. If you ever should have any questions, feel free to contact myself, Nathan, or Barry at our office, and be glad to answer any questions. Looking forward to work with you all. Thank you.
By the way, just for the listening audience at home, all audit reports, including fiscal 18, going all the way back to 2001, can be viewed on our website at www.paducahky.gov. And with your permission, Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to thank the Finance Department for working so diligently with David and his staff in getting the job done. The CAFR takes a year to complete, and it's critical to have a smart, efficient, and well-organized staff. And by the way, this will be our 28th CAFR in the last 28 years.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Okay, we will move into our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. The city clerk will read the items recommended for approval. Is there
I don't have
anything
to pull.
Want to pull? Okay.
Minutes for the January 5th, 2019 and January 8th, 2019 City Commission meetings. Receive and file documents. Appointment of Alan Rose Jr. to the Code Enforcement Board to fill the unexpired term of Edwin Jones, who has resigned. This term shall expire August 22nd, 2020. Reappointment of Hardy Roberts to the Electric Plant Board for a term that shall expire February 6, 2023. Appointments to the newly formed Building, Electrical, and Fire Codes Appeals Board, including Greg Croft, Rick Windhorst, Chad Byer, and Jason Hickey, whose term shall expire January 22nd, 2023, and David Uri, Paul King, and Jimmy Evans, whose terms shall expire January 22nd, 2022. Reappointment of Jonathan E. Perkins to the Paducah Riverfront Development Advisory Board. This term shall expire February 7th, 2021. Appointment of Corbin Snarden to the Board of Ethics to replace Mark Whitlow, whose term has expired. This term shall expire February 10th, 2021. Reappointment of Deborah Edmonds to the Commissioners of Waterworks for a term that shall expire January 6, 2023. Personnel actions. A municipal order accepting the bid of Galls LLC for the purchase of uniforms for the Paducah Police Department employees and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. A municipal order authorizing the application for and acceptance of a fiscal year 2020 highway safety grant to the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet for overtime pay for officers and associated fuel costs for the police department, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. A municipal order accepting the bid of data records management services in an amount of $23,974 for the digitizing of felony investigation records for the Paducah Police Department, and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. A municipal order accepting grant funds through the Kentucky Department for Library and Archives, KDLA, for a fiscal year 2019 local records program grant in the amount of $23,974 for the purchase of services related to digitizing records for the Paducah Police Department, and authorizing the mayor to execute the grant agreement and all documents related to same. A municipal order authorizing and directing the finance director to transfer funds from the Commission Reserve Fund to the Mayor and Commissioner's Training and Travel account in an amount of $10,000, and to the City Manager's Office Training and Travel account in an amount of $5,000 for training and travel expenses for the remainder of fiscal year 2019. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
None.
Commissioner McElroy?
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Aye. Okay. Okay. Next item, resolution. So here's what we're going to do before we read that, make a motion or whatever. I want to give the individuals that signed up a chance to share their thoughts. So we. What?
Do we need to make that into a motion?
Yeah. Oh, suspended. I got you. All right. All right, I'll do that. Move, right? I move that the rules for conducting city commission meeting be suspended so far as they are in conflict with the printed agenda for this meeting. Otherwise, the rules are to remain in full force and effect.
Second.
Okay.
Commissioner McElroy?
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Aye. Okay. Now, so we got a lot of folks that want to.
I had signed up too, but it's sitting there. So
Okay, that's fine.
thank you.
You're welcome. A lot of folks want to share their thoughts on this, so keep that in mind when you're speaking. So what's the time limit on that? What, 3 minutes?
You can set.
You can set.
I can set it?
Yes.
I can do that?
Yes.
You may be here a while. Okay, 4 minutes. All right, please try to keep with that because everybody wants their opportunity to speak. Okay, so we'll start. First person? Is that Tony Gerard?
Tony Gerard, yes.
Mr. Gerard.
Commissioner Abraham,
And-
Mayor
yes.
Pro Tem Abraham, for clarification, are you keeping the comments during this period of time specific to the agenda item?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, this is for the agenda item, the resolution. So if this is what you want to speak on, that's what we're doing right now. Okay? Everybody good?
Which resolution?
Which resolution? Okay. This is to repeal the Veterans Day resolution, parade resolution. So this is what this part is about. So if you're for it, against it, you get a chance to speak here. You got 4 minutes. And this is from, you guys are from this is Mr. Brad Holland also from the Race Unity of Paducah.
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, City Commissioner and citizens of Paducah. On behalf of the Race Unity Group, we have a statement that we'd like to say. This is a collective opinion of all the people that are in the Race Unity Group. This is not a one person's opinion. We discussed it amongst ourselves. We've been in existence for 5 years now, so we also would like to invite you guys out every Thursday at Washington Street. So we're going to let you hear what our thoughts and opinions is.
A declaration by the Congress of the United States of America. Whereas the 11th of November, 1918 marked the cessation of the most destructive, sanguinary, and far-reaching war in human annals and the resumption by the people of the United States of peaceful relations with other nations, which we hope may never again be severed, and whereas it's fitting that the reoccurring anniversary of this date should be commemorated with thanksgiving and prayer and exercises designed to perpetuate peace and goodwill and mutual understanding between nations, and whereas the legislatures of 27 of our states have already declared November 11th to be a legal holiday, therefore be it resolved by the Senate, the House of Representatives concurring, that the President of the United States is requested to issue a proclamation calling upon the officials to display the flag of the United States on all government buildings on November 11th and inviting people of the United States to observe the day in schools and churches or other suitable places with appropriate ceremonies of friendly relations with other people. As the Paducah City Council again addresses the matter of the appropriateness of the Confederate flag during the annual Veterans Day Parade, we would like to respectfully ask that the Council consider our perspective at this time. Mayor Pro Tem Abraham has suggested that it may be a violation of the First Amendment to not allow the Confederate flag in the parade. We would respectfully disagree. While the First Amendment guarantees the KKK, the Black Panthers, the American Nazi Party, and anyone else the freedom to express their view publicly, it does not guarantee that they will be allowed to be an official part of any public event. The organizers of the public event have the right to pick and choose what they deem is appropriate for that event. Those in support of allowing the Confederate flag into the parade say it's a symbol of a heritage they take pride in. In Paducah and McCracken County, there are surely veteran descendants, much more recent descendants, of Germans, Italians, Japanese, Filipinos, and Cubans who all fought against the United States of America. These people are now Americans. If they take pride in the military service of their ancestors to their ancestral homeland, should they be given equal treatment to carry those flags also? While it can be debated that the federal government, in the spirit of reconciliation, gave some U.S. veteran rights posthumously to Confederate veterans, a few things cannot be debated. The Confederate flag was the flag of a group that stood in direct opposition to the United States of America. While some will say the Civil War was over states' rights, it was the right of a group of people to hold another group as property that was the point of greatest contention. It was the flag of a people willing to potentially die in order to deny basic human rights to people of a different race. Soldiers of the United States of America fought and died to gain freedom for those individuals. Descendants of those same people, former slaves, have served honorably in that and every conflict the United States has entered into since. Any action other than flying our national flag and honoring our national veterans and their sacrifice diminishes and stands in opposition to the spirit in which Congress declared Veterans Day in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Ronald Hughes.
May I say something for just quick? I just happened to think of something when I was on the commission before. When everyone comes up to speak, would you move the mic closer to your mouth, because people back home have a little bit of difficulty hearing when the speaker is not very close to the microphone. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
It's quite all right.
And Madam Clerk, could you give the speakers a 1 minute notice as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll raise my hand at 1 minute, okay.
I don't think I'll take that long, but thank you for the opportunity to speak. I don't know that I can say much more than what those gentlemen just said, other than the fact that my father served in the Occupation Army of the 11th Airborne in Japan in 1946. He served in the Korean War in the late 40s, early 50s. He was in France under the 101st Airborne, and he was a Vietnam era veteran during that time period in the early 60s. This particular day was established for United States servicemen. Yes, sir. And the thing is that we are here to honor them. You've established a parade to honor as part of a celebration that was established by the United States. To allow anything else other than that is disrespectful to those men and women who have given their effort, their lives, their energy to this country. And as far as when you establish this, what you've done is, and I love the way the original resolution was run. It allows for the United States flag to be in the parade, not anything else but the United States parade, or the flag, because that is what we're honoring. Nothing else, nothing less. There should only be 6 total banners or ensigns, and that is the United States flag, the Army flag, the Marine Corps flag, the Navy flag, the Air Force flag, and the Coast Guard flag. Anything other than that is disrespectful to those individuals who have given all that they have given to this country. And if you open this can of worms up, then what are we going to do for those people who were Americans who decided to serve for the Wehrmacht, who decided to serve in the French Foreign Legion, who decided to serve in Canada for the Air Force to get into the World War II early? So we're opening up a can of worms to allow flags from every nation, because these were individuals, American citizens, who actually served in those particular services. So I strongly urge you to vote against the change of this resolution.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. Okay. Former Commissioner Holland. Sir Holland, please.
Thank you for letting me speak. I've been on this journey with this particular resolution for a long time. It seems like 2 years when I stood as a newly elected commissioner and watched the Confederate flag roll in front of me, in front of a black veteran, in front of small black children from Clark Elementary and my own children, and I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed because while the flag has a long history, it does not end at 1865. That flag was flown as a symbol of intimidation, of hate, of segregation for decades after the Civil War was over. And to ignore that history and the violence and pain and intimidation it causes people to this day is problematic in the least and ignorant in the worst. And so I think that to recognize that we all have freedom of speech. It is a private right. Do whatever you will in your own yard, in your own home, and in your own time. But the government owes you no responsibility to provide a platform for a symbol that harms the citizens of this town, that harms the reputation of this town. And so I urge every commissioner to keep the resolution in place, keep the Veterans Day parade what it is meant to be, which is a parade to honor living members of our nation's military.
Thank you, Ms. Holland. Reverend Jim Gearhart.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, and City Clerk. I also would like to speak against the repeal of the resolution, and I just did a little bit of study this afternoon on the meaning of the Confederate flag. And the meaning of the Confederate flag, well, there's different iterations of the Confederate flag, but the one we're speaking to is the Confederate battle flag. And it has become a symbol since at least the 40s of discrimination, a symbol for white supremacy. That's what it has become. It has been promoted that way. It is promoted also as a flag that represents Southern heritage and Southern pride. That Southern heritage includes the wholesale buying and selling of human beings in a system that began 400 or 500 years ago and was prophetized by white Europeans. So it is a symbol that cannot be given prominence in our city or in our county. Yeah, there are people that have, on Old Mayfield Road, there's a guy that has a huge Confederate flag. He just replaced it because it was tattered on his huge flagpole. I got to grin and bear it, don't I? Sure. But the people that represent my father, who was a World War II veteran, and this city, I don't see how, in good conscience, we can support and allow a symbol that has come to be an outright proclamation of white supremacy, which is a root of racism, which is a support for racism, discrimination. We do not support that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Robert Wharton.
My name is Robert Worden. I'm a Vietnam veteran. My father served in the U.S. Army in World War II. My grandfather in the U.S. Army in World War I. Had 5 ancestors serving with the Union and 2 with the Confederacy during the American Civil War, with 2 ancestors who served in the War of 1812, 1 who died in battle, and 19 who served as patriots in the American Revolution. However, it's because I served on the former Paducah Parks and Recreation Veterans Day Parade Committee and was a part of that initial resolution, I have come to explain the intent of that resolution. Amen. Former Mayor Albert Jones is the one who reestablished the parade in the 1990s. I believe 1996 is when the committee was actually established. Came to the committee with ideas from Paducah businessmen and educators that the parade was devolving from its original intent. Veterans Day, as has been said, is set aside to honor those living veterans who served for and fought for those military organizations fighting under the flag of the United States of America, the very same flag and only one which we pledged our allegiance to a few minutes ago. Amen. Veterans Day, I won't get into the other, I know I'm limited in time. There are other holidays, I won't get into those. But the intent of the original resolution was to state that the Paducah Veterans Day Parade would be in accordance with the federal holiday as designated by Congress, and that we would limit participation to those organizations and units who honored the veterans of the United States of America. The use of the word flag was to state allegiance to our country and to recognize that veterans serving our country were the ones to be honored. Since that time, the word flag has taken to be reinterpreted to be a flag, any flag, or all flags. Amen. There was never any intent to restrict marching bands from their drill flags. The idea is that only veterans who served for the United States of America were to be honored. Now, this is not a genealogical issue, even though I serve as a genealogical partner in several organizations, nor is it one of local history, even though I am historian for the local DAV and to Mount Kenton Cemetery. But it was to match up with the federal holiday of which we celebrate. Now, the Veterans Day Parade Committee was aware of at that time and still aware of certain restrictions brought about. We are familiar with the presidential pardons of Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Johnson, including the one in 1865 with its 14 restrictions, which allowed freedom from prosecution having been in rebellion and the right to vote only after having served the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America and to the U.S. Constitution. We're also aware of Public Law 85-425, which increased the monthly pension rates of pension payable to widows and former widows of deceased veterans of the Spanish-American War, Civil War, Indian War, and Mexican War, and to provide pensions to widows of veterans who served in the military or naval forces of the Confederate States of America during the Civil War.
1 minute.
Yes. 1 minute. Public Law 85, Subchapter 2, Bill 510, states that the Confederate Army was given pensions, but then that was declared repealed in 1975. We also know that under the federal stewardship of Confederate graves, quote, federal money spent on maintaining federal graves always kept a distinction between the graves and the service of federal versus Confederate soldiers. We wish to leave the resolution intact. Amen.
Octavia Lawrence.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to represent the Paducah Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. The Paducah Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated stands in opposition to the display of the Confederate flag at all public events and parades in Paducah and McCracken County. Paducah alumni's opposition is based on a well-documented history of the negative connotations associated with the Confederate flag. All the recent data clearly supports that the state of Kentucky is still a part of the United States of America. The key word in that statement is united. Although the states aligned with the Confederacy fought long and hard in their quest to maintain a particular lifestyle, they ultimately lost the war. The Civil War, also known as the War Between the States, ended with the Confederacy conceding defeat in 1865. Flags are considered sacred because they represent a certain degree of hope, stability, and strength. Historically, flags have been used to symbolize a nation's priorities, values, and traditions, and even sometimes used as a signal that a particular side was victorious during a battle. However, the Confederate flag represents a divisive era in our nation's history. Displaying the flag during public parades is for some a simple demonstration of pride in their ancestry, but for others, it is a symbol of tyranny, greed, and man's inhumanity to man. Many Americans, both black and white, would like to forget the painful history of beatings, lynchings, rape, and murder associated with and condoned under the umbrella of the Confederate flag. But how can the past be forgotten when the Confederate flag is dangled in front of them at parades and other public events? Would we consider allowing the flag of Japan to be a part of a parade because descendants of Japanese soldiers who fought at Pearl Harbor live here? Would we consider a flag showcasing a swastika as a part of a parade because we have proud descendants of German soldiers who live in our community? The answer to both questions is no, because displaying anything that represents abuse and power or abuse of power would be offensive to society and inhibit healthy, communicative relationships. We need healthy relationships in order to have a viable, thriving community. Amen. The Paducah Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated requests the Commission maintain the restriction to disallow participation of the Confederate flag in public parades. To the Commissioner who feels the current restriction is unfair, we offer these words from Paul. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. Having the authority to do something does not mean it is in the best interest of everyone to commit the act. Therefore, loving and having compassion for my fellow man means I cannot and will not do anything to purposely offend them. Respectfully, the Paducah Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Mr. Corbin Snorton.
Good evening, Commissioners and City Manager. I neglected to put that I represent the Paducah McCracken County NAACP, of which you see all behind me. So, let's get into this. So, to the officials of the Paducah City Commission, the Paducah McCracken County NAACP, along with other concerned citizens, were disheartened and disappointed at the shameful comments made in reference to the Confederate flag by Commissioner and Mayor Pro Tem Richard Abraham at the City Commission meeting held on January 8, 2019. The mission of the NAACP is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights of all persons and to eliminate race-based discrimination. The Confederate flag is a threat to this mission and stands as a tarnishing legacy of racial discrimination and hatred. While free speech is certainly the right of every American, it is not without consequence. To be clear, the local NAACP supports American veterans, and we applaud them for their service to their country. There are no more Confederate veterans living today. Moreover, Confederate veterans, of their own volition, were not citizens of the United States. Yes, sir. The Veterans Day Parade should honor living men and women who served in the United States military. The resolution passed by the previous City Council in 2017 addresses this, in which it states, to paraphrase, the Veterans Day Parade would be limited to individuals who served in the United States Armed Forces and display the United States flag. Amen. Paducah should be a city in which all individuals feel welcomed. We should also be a city that celebrates diversity and freedom, and in the case of Veterans Day celebrations, celebrate the men and women who served their country. Though individuals are entitled to their own personal beliefs, that does not change the fact that the Confederacy then and now stands as a symbol of divisiveness and racism, not Southern heritage. The Paducah-McCracken County NAACP strongly disapproves and discourages any display of the Confederate flag in any iteration. We believe that it is time to leave the past in the past, and we encourage the City Council of Paducah to promote an image of the city in which all individuals in this generation and future generations, especially individuals of color, feel welcome and accepted. We hope that the City Council will ensure a diverse and collective future because symbols are important. When we hold the Kentucky flag, we are signifying that we are citizens of this state. When we display the American flag, we are displaying that we are proud American citizens. What are we then if we display the Confederate flag, is the question. Amen. Amen. With that, I strongly encourage the City Council to maintain the resolution, and in the case of allowing bands to fly their colors, it would be solved by a simple addendum, not by repealing the entire resolution. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Okay, Mr. Adam Horton.
I think I had more than 4 minutes, so I'm going to have to cut it down just a little bit. All right. The United States of America has many proud moments in its short history. We have thrived and flourished in the face of adversity since the very beginning. We forged through cold waters, plague-like sicknesses, food shortages, and came out the other side intact. We have fought for the rights of women, minorities, and unborn children. We have researched methods to prevent regional health epidemics. We have sent people into space and even to our own moon. All of these against major adversity. We have immeasurable pride in our nation. All this pride, yet we are still ashamed. We are ashamed that we took thousands of people from their lives across the ocean into an agonizing existence serving masters that they never met. Shame that my grandfathers, your grandfathers, and our forefathers all perpetrated one of the most heinous crimes in history. We have fought a war over this issue. We changed the trajectory of our nation. We freed people from slavery, and we're still ashamed. Historically, when a nation is ashamed of something, they hide it. They push away into the history books and try to distance themselves from it as far as possible. Some nations even choose to hide their history from their population completely. Instead of doing this, we seem unable to let it go. This part of our history that demeans an entire race of people is still part of our national conversation more than 150 years after President Lincoln emancipated all of those enslaved. Not only is this the case, but people still try to find their identity in this historical embarrassment. I'm embarrassed that there are people that live near me claiming to be proud of their Confederate heritage. I'm embarrassed that people of color are still being discriminated against en masse. I'm embarrassed that we are still having this conversation. The Confederate flag is the single, constantly present symbol of this national embarrassment. If you choose to fly the Confederate flag in the privacy of your own property and your own home, you're truly free to do so. I support that freedom. That flag, however, is a symbol of segregation, racial prejudice, and hate. Its display only furthers these problems. I cannot stand to see it flown in government-supported events. This is why we have the Veterans Day Parade resolution.
Yes, sir.
I'm not ashamed of any of you. You're Americans. I'm proud that our country is so diverse. Instead, I'm ashamed that I'm part of the problem. I'm ashamed that I cannot get you, not all of you, to see that you may be part of the problem too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nate Crawford.
I need y'all to bear with me. I'm still getting over a bug and I'm still sniffling.
Okay.
You know I get nervous when I get up here, so.
Stand over there.
I don't think I'm contagious. Okay, I'm going to try and keep it short. I just wanted to say that I stand against the display of the Confederate flag at any city-sponsored event. I mean, seriously, guys, what are we doing here? We have so many more significant policies that we could be focusing on instead of focusing on an irrelevant issue that has already been debated and decided. We need to make Paducah a better place to raise a family, start a business, and make a difference. And guys, allowing a negative symbol like this will not do that. Amen. Excuse me. We need to move on together, all of us. And that's why tonight you're seeing such an overwhelming presence of people who do not want to see a repeal. There are some people who will try to tell you that this is about heritage. And if that were the case, what they would be pushing for wouldn't be flying the symbol of hate that we all see flying over I-24 on our way into Paducah. They'd be flying like their stars, the stars and bars, the thing that is supposedly their symbol.
People from Tennessee own that property.
The flag at issue didn't come into common use until the rise of the KKK and the Jim Crow era, when hate was at what we once thought was a high point in this country. The flag being discussed isn't associated with Robert E. Lee, it's associated with white hoods, burning crosses, and lynchings. The battle flag represents racial hate and has no place in our city or is part of a parade intended to honor living veterans who fought for our country. Yes, sir. Thank you all for letting me speak.
You're welcome. Miss Mary Byrne.
Thank you for letting us all speak.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess my first statement would have to be that I hope that we're not going to have to do this every 2 years after an election. I feel like the elephant in the room is the Sons of the Confederacy even being in the parade. That's the elephant in the parade in the room as far as I'm concerned. If the parade is for living veterans, why do we have the Sons of the Confederacy even in the parade? I like numbers. 370,000 U.S. troops died in the Civil War. 30,000 troops died in POW camps. 50,000 civilians died in the Civil War. 80,000 slaves died in the Civil War. So that flag and the Confederacy and the Sons of the Confederacy feels to me we are allowing them to be honored while they've killed veterans. So,
amen.
Thanks.
Amen.
What's it, Sage? Is that Sage? What's that?
I can't tell.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this. J.T. Saig? Anybody? Okay, 861 North 26th Street.
Oh, Richard, that's BTJ.
BT. Okay, come on. I apologize. I look like a J. I look like a J.
Thank you for letting me speak. First thing I want to say, this is purely nothing but politics. Actually, most of you gentlemen are Democrats, and y'all are scared to death of losing the black vote, so you're going to do something like this. But, you know, slavery is not a color thing. If you want to ban a flag of slavery, you ban the Christian flag. God set slavery up. He was the mother and father of slavery thousands of years ago. It's still with us. It's going to be with us. It's his favorite punishment weapon. So all I want to say is I commend Commissioner Abraham for having the guts to stand up and say, let these people have their say too. But now you can ban a flag, but you cannot ban an attitude, and you never will. Thank you.
Okay. What is this? Oh, that's the last gentleman.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Where'd he go? The last gentleman that brought the. Yes, sir. Yes. Iftikhar. Yeah, there it is. I apologize, sir, for not pronouncing your name.
You're not the first one that cannot pronounce it, so I'm used to it. Okay. Good evening, my fellow West Kentuckians, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. I'm Iftikhar Chaudhry. I live in Paducah, Kentucky. I've been there for 24 years with my wife. The world is full of competitors who are working very hard to beat us in this world economy. At this time, when we need to unite and work together for the sake of ourselves, our children, our grandchildren's future, we are here arguing over whether Confederate flag or any symbol of it should be allowed to participate in the upcoming United States Veterans Day Parade, a parade that honors those who fought to preserve our country and our way of life. It does not honor those who fought against us, whether they were the British in early years, or the Central Powers in World War I, or the Axis powers during World War II, or the Korean War, or the Vietnam War, or the Gulf Wars I and II, or the war in Afghanistan, or the war against ISIS, and certainly not the Confederates who fought to break our country apart. Confederates were never granted U.S. veteran status. Yes, they and their widows received pension, not as United States veterans, but as Confederate veterans. After the Civil War, any Confederate who marched in the military parade marched behind the American flag. If it was good enough for them then, it should be good enough for us now. Their descendants fought bravely for the United States in World War I and later, and they marched in Veterans Day Parade behind the American flag. Confederate flag or any form of it did not even get prominence until 91 years later, after the Civil War ended in 1956 in Georgia, and then most of the South. We all know the reason for that. Ladies and gentlemen, the war was over 153 years ago, and thank God for our country's sake, the Confederates lost. Let us not try to rewrite the history and legitimize their secession by including them in a parade that honors the ones who fought for this country. This discussion is a symbol of sickness that is seeping in our mind and poisoning our society with hate and fear. Let us put a stop to that and unite behind our real veterans. Let us stop spreading hate and division. Paraphrasing President Lincoln, let us allow the better angels of our nature to flourish. Thank you and good night.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna, before I read that, I wanna say a couple of things. Thank you all for your comments. So I love the way our system is set up, that everyone comes and voice their opinion on something that they feel passionate about. That is the country that we live in, and I thank God for it. Before we move to the reading of the resolution, and I'm sure if any of the commissioners has any comments, we'll make sure we get that in prior to, if you all have any. I'd like to read just real short. I know that there are those who want to hang on to the discussion of a flag that was hijacked in the early 1900s. Many people have intensely researched it and are eager to voice and have voiced their opinion. After following the facts with much prayer, I have finally come to realize our problem is not about a flag or a symbol. It's not about a cigarette smoked in the park or a double protection of some and no protection of others. Our problem rests in government overreach, with common sense and common courtesy would have been suited. Reflecting in the story of the Wizard of Oz, we must pay attention to what is going on behind the curtain. This is about how we, the Commission, have followed others, have failed to treat others in our name. Do not accuse, there was some biblical references made tonight. Do not accuse a man without cause when he has done you no harm. That's from Proverbs. So then, let us pursue what leads to peace and to mutual edification. In the midst of this debacle, I have seen and heard things that have been disconcerting, amazing, and misleading. We have been embroiled in an issue that had taken far too much time and actually does not really fall under the job description of city commissioner. That's per KRS. But because of this parade controversy and the way it has been handled, there has been no end to conjecture. Biased opinions and misinformation have been the only rule of the day. If you add fear, intention, confusion, lack of respectful communication, and a bit of time, you can understand how we have ended up where we are. I'm offering a solution, which is being brought tonight, that was based on my understanding at the time to address the concern of those involved. I have tried to address the discomfort of those involving the battle flag, and I have offered a suggestion based upon a veteran who was not affiliated with the SCV, wanting to carry his state flag recognized by the United States. I've also, with reasonable conversation, come to an agreement with the SCV, who showed sensitivity addressing certain citizens' discomfort regarding the aforementioned hijacking of the battle flag and its use for intimidation and hate. These suggestions I offer tonight were based upon the information I was able to gather from those I spoke with, and it was based upon information I gathered myself. I propose, after withdrawing this resolution 2017, that we reinstate the Veterans Day Committee, add the display of all state flags to the parade entitled Swinford Canyon of Flags, and keep the parade and move on. At this point, I was told that we could have avoided all of this mess if people had actually sat down and spoken with each other without having preconceived notions and biases. It has been said that, and I quote, our employees handle this badly. No, but I must correct that statement. We, as a commission past, handle this badly. I also had a conversation, spoke with both captains, and have run into no disagreeable interactions or contentious conversation over the sensitivity of said flag. And as I close, I would like to say this. In 1980s, I was watching TV and I saw a executive for the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is what he said. He said, the reason you don't see more African Americans as major league managers is because they don't possess the mental capacity to do the job. That thought was also rang through the NFL. You really can't have a black quarterback because under pressure, they can't really handle the stress. But by the works of Donovan McNabb, the works of other quarterbacks of color has proved what? That that's absolutely absurd. But here's one. Here's one here. If you are white and you are proud of your family, well, that can't be true. Because if you are, with the way it is today, there's a theme that's out there that there's no way you could be proud of your heritage, because you have to be at least what? A racist or support white supremacists, just because why? Right? Yesterday, we were at Martin Luther King luncheon, and it was all about unity. It was all about bringing people together. And I myself, African-American man, growing up in the South, have seen some horrible things. But this resolution is not about a flag. The application that each individual fills out prior to that parade, at the bottom of that application, it addresses exactly what has to happen. If you are not agreeable with that, you are asked to adjust whatever it is that you want to do or leave. This past November, that's exactly what happened. No Confederate flags were flown, those flags were rolled, and the parade went on. So that's why I'm suggesting that we rescind this resolution, because the resolution has nothing to do with what we've been talking about tonight. That issue was addressed with the application and was adhered to this past November.
So you don't hear yourself?
Yes, ma'am. I do.
At some point, you need to either read the motion. You're not letting anybody else discuss it.
No, that's what I'm saying right here.
Well, I think we're out of order.
You got it? Okay, I will read the motion, and then if there's anyone here wants to comment, then that's totally acceptable. I move that a resolution entitled, "A Resolution Repealing in its Entirety a Resolution Adopted May 16, 2017, entitled A Resolution Affirming and Accepting the Position of the Paducah Veterans Day Committee that participants in the Veterans Day Parade be limited to those that represent the flag of the United States and the veterans of the United States Armed Forces."
That's it.
That was the
Be adopted.
I believe we need a second for discussion. I'll second that for purposes of discussion.
Commissioners?
Do you have other comments?
No.
Okay. Do you want to? I'll speak. Well, I want to thank all of you who are here with us tonight to speak on behalf of your beliefs. Thank you. That's what this is about. And I really appreciate the fact that you would take the time to prepare comments, to come here, and to share those with us. So thank you. I really do not know why this is even on our agenda. This was debated and discussed and voted on in 2017, and it was approved by a unanimous vote of the City Commission members who were in attendance. And in my opinion, nothing has changed since then. Because of your comments last time at the last meeting about it, we've had 3 legal opinions that now support our resolution. At that time, I think you said that you felt like it violated the First Amendment. All 3 of our legal opinions have said it does not violate the First Amendment because it is, the Veterans Day Parade is a limited public forum. And I spoke at length with Mayor Albert Jones, who brought the Veterans Day Parade back to the forefront. His intent was to honor our veterans, those living in our community, and to recognize them and to honor them and give them some special recognition. And the resolution, to me, affirms the original intent by him. And I personally am the wife of a veteran of the United States Air Force, and I just cannot support the repeal of this resolution.
Commissioner Watkins.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and I also want to thank everyone for coming, and I appreciate your remarks. I would just say that the Veterans Day was established to honor living U.S. military veterans under the U.S. flag. The Confederate flag is offensive to a very large segment of our population, Amen, including the African American community, which is 25% of the population of the City of Paducah. Amen. Also, it's very divisive for our community. It adversely affects the harmony and goodwill of our community. It hurts our effort to recruit employers and create job opportunities for our people. And we're desperate for job opportunities. I think everyone knows my position. When I was on the commission before, it was my resolution that condemned the Confederate flag that flies over I-24 at exit 16 and urged its removal. I also called the Kentucky Attorney General a few months ago to see if that land, that parcel of land, could be condemned to remove it.
We've been working together.
We have.
People from Tennessee owns that property. People from Tennessee is running the state of Kentucky, and it makes us look bad. Makes Paducah look bad.
It absolutely does. 40,000 vehicles a day drive under that flag every day, according to the Kentucky Department of Transportation, on Interstate 24. I think certainly it's tough recruiting as it is, but if an employer were to drive to Paducah to take a look at a site here and saw that flag, I think they'd just drive on.
Humongous flag.
So I think you know where my position is. I'm going to oppose this, and I appreciate all of you coming.
Commissioner McElroy.
I also thank you for coming and being prepared and speaking so eloquently. It's been great to hear from you. You know, today in society, it's kind of the mode of operation. Things are very polarizing, and if we don't agree, we don't like each other. There's no compassion, no love. I want to call for the question. I want us to vote, and then I want us to reach out and show compassion to even those that we do not agree with.
It ain't personal.
Okay.
I'm calling for the question.
Ready?
Mm-hmm. Commissioner McElroy.
Nay.
Commissioner Watkins.
I vote no.
Commissioner Wilson.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
Aye. All right, we're moving. Yes.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, I would like to encourage the audience out there to realize that the action taken by the Board of Commissioners tonight was done out of grace. There's a lot of caring that goes on to these decisions that are made here for the community. Commissioner Abraham, Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, is looking for a resolution tonight to listen to a part of our community that's come to every commission meeting for the last 2 years. I've been here for going on 7 months now, and I've seen these seats filled with members of the Sons of the Confederacy, and they would get to that podium and they would speak some not so nice things to the Board of Commissioners every 2 weeks. And I stared at them and I wondered about that, and I thought, how can we find a win-win? How can we get to a solution where we can have peace in our community? I spoke to Mayor Pro Tem Abraham. I like to just call him Commissioner. It's easier for me. It spits that easier about that same thing. And I believe truly in my heart, as Commissioner Abraham said, he's just looking to find a way to get a win-win. He's looking for a way to have peace. With grace. I would ask you and challenge you to watch the commission meetings, to come and participate like you are tonight. Because there's other voices that have been heard for the last 2 years. And I think they need to hear your voice as well. Thank you.
They got it on television. They were told not to come tonight.
Appreciate that, City Manager. What else we got? Right here. Municipal orders. We're going to move down the agenda. Municipal orders. Commissioner McElroy.
Yes. I move that a municipal order entitled, a municipal order approving change order number 5 with A&K Construction for a contract reduction in the amount of $156,998 for the City Hall Phase 1 project and authorizing the mayor to execute the change order be adopted.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commission, City Manager, this is something we really enjoy to bring to your attention on our project. It's reducing the current contract amount by $157,000, give or take some. So, and we continue on. The building is coming together. We look to be finished in the month of February, and we'll bring you a few more change orders. Some of those will go north, but not as big as this one going south. So we're happy to report that. So.
And you said February?
Yes.
All right.
The building should be done in February. That's our tentative date. Hopefully by the end of February.
That's kind of interesting how those go. It'll go south and then it'll go up again. So you're gonna have a lot of time to celebrate that.
Well, the savings that you're seeing right now, the original contract had $222,000 to replace a lot of the concrete deck, almost 100% of it on the podium, and we've reduced that down to about 40% and only replaced that portion that absolutely needed to be replaced.
And they're doing a good job too.
Anyone else?
We don't hear these kind of changes of change orders very often, so thank you. Good news.
Yeah, great news.
City Clerk.
Commissioner McElroy?
An enthusiastic aye.
Commissioner Watkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Aye. Okay, municipal orders. Ordinance introduction. Commissioner Watkins.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance providing for the closing of an unnamed right-of-way between Buckner Lane and Exall Lane opposite Pines Road and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents relating to same. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The City of Paducah does hereby authorize the closure of an unnamed right-of-way between Buckner Lane and Exall Lane opposite Pines Road, empowers and directs the mayor to execute quitclaim deeds from the city to the property owners in or abutting the public ways to be closed.
Second.
City Clerk. Introduction, okay. Let's see. Commissioner.
Do you have comments about it?
Well, real quick, for those of us familiar with the community, if you were to come to the stop sign at Pines Road at Buckner Lane, there's actually a right-of-way that went through to Exall. It's never been developed, and quite frankly, for the life of me, being here, city engineer as long as I have, it never has made sense to me. And we have applicants on either side that say that would be beneficial for the residential use. We're more than happy to allow that to go to the private sector and let that become residential property. So it's a win-win for us here. Properties we don't need to maintain, and they can be put back on the tax roll.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Wilson.
I move that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance approving the final report of the Paducah Planning Commission respecting the proposed final subdivision of Labari, is that how you pronounce it, Rick?
Yes, ma'am.
Labari Farms located at 1720 and 1740 New Hope Road and accepting the dedication of right-of-way and easements. This ordinance is summarized as follows. That the City of Paducah does hereby approve the final report of the Paducah Planning Commission respecting the proposed subdivision of property at Labari Farms for property located at 1720 and 1740 New Hope Road and accepting the dedication of right-of-way and easements. In addition, the City of Paducah hereby authorizes the mayor to subscribe a certificate of approval on the plat and to execute an escrow agreement in the amount of $250,000.
Do you have a second?
Second.
This particular development is something we're really excited about because this is where the developer said, hey, I'd like to be in the city. This property was originally in the county. They came in the city and they're starting this subdivision. It's going to be a nice location for some upscale duplexes, something that would be nice for people in that part of town.
Okay. City manager comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I do have two. Just to remind the Board of Commissioners that we do have the mission statement, organizational values roll out for the city team. For Team Paducah, going to be at the Robert Cherry Civic Center on Monday at 9 o'clock and 10:30. I'd love to have you there if you guys wish to be there. I'd like to introduce you to the team as well. I'm sure they all know you, but just to make sure you bring you back to their attention, especially the newly elected city commissioners. And then also that day, the citizen survey will roll out. We'll actually have the launch of the citizen survey for our customer service and customer service expectations. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Comments from the board?
I would just say I was blessed to attend the Kentucky League of Cities training last week with our city manager, assistant city manager, and Commissioner Wilson, and it was a wonderful experience. We learned a ton. They did a great job. They worked us from sun up to sundown, but it was worth it. Thank you all.
I do have something. Many of you might have received this from Nathan Torin, the local president from the Paducah Fire Department of Local 168, that our local number 168 is turning 100 years old on January 24th. That's Thursday. And out of, their local number is 168 out of 5,101 locals across the United States and Canada. They're very proud and humbled to be a part of our great city, and they said they were looking forward to 100 more years of serving our city and beyond. And there is a celebration Thursday that they're having at Paducah Beer Works is hosting for them from 5 to 7 to celebrate that 100th birthday. And some of the proceeds from that event will go to their charities, which include the Muscular Dystrophy Association and Operation Warm, which they use to put coats in the local school systems. I would encourage everybody to join with them on Thursday at that celebration.
It's a great effort. Long history. Okay, that it? Anybody else? All right, this meeting is adjourned.